Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see. I'm just a poor boy, I need no sympathy. 'Cause I'm easy come, easy go, little high, little low. Anyway the wind blows doesn't really matter to me. Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pulled my trigger, now he's dead. Mama, life had just begun, but now I've gone and thrown it all away. Mama, ooh, didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow, carry on, as if nothing really matters. Too late, my time has come, sent shivers down my spine, body's aching all the time. Goodbye, everybody, I've got to go. Gotta leave you all behind and face the truth. Mama, I don't wanna die. I sometimes wish I'd never been born at all. I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo, Figaro. I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family, sparing his life from this monstrosity.
Easy come, easy go, will you let me go? Bismillah,
No, we will not let you go, let him go.
Bismillah,
We will not let you go, let him go.
Bismillah,
We will not let you go,
let me go,
we'll not let you go,
let me go,
we'll not let you go.
let me go. No, oh mamma mia, mamma mia.
Mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me, for me, for me.
So you think you can stone me and spit in my eye? So you think you can love me and leave me to die? Oh, baby, can't do this to me, baby.
I really hope you enjoyed that. Even 1/20th of the amount that we enjoyed making that. Every single person involved in this project, I suppose, to do our best recreation that we possibly do. Humble recreation of what I believe is the greatest song ever written and ever recorded. If you know me well, or know me at all, you know that I'm the biggest Queen fan. Queen are my favourite band, and it's the reason why I play music. Getting a night at the opera as a little tiny kid from my father, who was a classical music and jazz fanatic, who didn't like any rock or pop or anything, bought me the record for Christmas and said, "This is worthy." And he's right. Night at the Opera is a masterpiece. It's my favourite record, and this, Bohemian Rhapsody, is my favourite song. As I said earlier, all of us were so happy to do this. Pete Riley, the great drummer, the great session drummer and educator, Pete Riley, played drums on it. The amazing Tony Franklin. I'm sure you know Tony from, of course, The Firm with Jimmy Page and Paul Rodgers. A couple of heavy hitters, Jamie Humphries, who, of course, if you don't already know, played guitar with Brian May, was in his band, played in the Queen Extravaganza and all those kinds of things. Steve Majora, we all know Steve from Toto. He did backgrounds and piano, but his backgrounds were blended a little bit lower with the rather amazing Mr. Mark Martel. I don't know if he needs any other introduction. Mark is an absolutely phenomenal singer who we've done albums with, we've done other songs. We did Another One Bites the Dust and Let Me Entertain You, also with him as well. Both are very successful tracks that we did with him. So here we are. I'd love to go through, show you the mix. It was an interesting one. It was kind of like, you know, because we did this by farming it around and then talking about it and people doing overdubs, a couple of interesting things happened. And that is that Steve did the backgrounds in isolation and Mark did his lead vocals in isolation. And then the two things came together. And on the whole, it pretty much worked. They both managed to track against the bass tracks and be fairly in time. There was a few moments where Steve had to be tweaked to Mark, because Mark's the lead singer and his backgrounds. So we did a little bit of that. So we use the ARA technology that Waves are using now with a plugin called Sync VX, and we actually tweaked, not all of them, but some of his backgrounds to fit. When you listen to Bohemian Rhapsody, it was a multi-track tape recording. So it was bounced and bounced and bounced. There are so many background vocals, or the Galileo, Galileo, all that stuff, no. These huge operatic sections have like doubled and quadrupled parts, and lots of them, like 16 parts, doubled and quadrupled. So many vocals. Now, we are in digital, so we don't have to do that. But it does mean, look at this, look at all this blue. Look at this blue up here is the backgrounds. See, all the blue is backgrounds for Mark. That's all Mark's backgrounds. And then the red is all of Steve's. Now, like I said, I mixed Steve's lower, just there to just kind of go up against Mark's to give it an extra different flavour. And actually, he got the Galileos, the really high ones, fairly well. Download the Multitracks and find out for yourself. A lot of backgrounds. And we did use the Sync VX a couple of times with Steve. It was purely and simply because he didn't sing to Mark's. And that is the only sort of reality when you track vocals separately and put them together. I will say that we left the raw vocals for Steve. You're going to hear that they're raw. I specifically asked him not to tune them. And Mark doesn't need tuning, as you know. So let's skip to the front. Let's start off with all of the vocals in together.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see. I'm just a poor boy, I need no sympathy.
What I like about this a lot is it's tight, but it's not vocal align. Don't get me wrong, I love vocal line plugin, but it's not vocal line tight, meaning everything is just a little bit slippy, but not perfect. And why is it like that? Because, and I could be wrong, but this is what I was told, is that like Def Leppard, what they would do to get this, like, is this the real life? they would take one of the vocals, like Freddie's main vocal, and then use it to gate the others. So you could have all of the vocals playing, "Is this the real life?" But they'd all stop when the lead vocal stopped. So to me, we didn't do that. We didn't gate it, but Mark and Steve, and we did manipulate Steve. Steve is the only person who got manipulated here because, like I said, he did his backgrounds in isolation. And quite frankly, at one point we thought, well, Steve will do all the backgrounds and Mark will sing the lead. But then we realized, you know, when you listen to the original, there's so much of Freddie's voice in there. Not taking anything away from Roger and Brian's vocals. They're both phenomenal singers and have incredible tonality, but Freddie is obviously very heavily featured. So to have not a background voice on this intro in particular that wasn't the lead singer's was kind of foolish. So that's why we ended up manipulating Steve a little bit. But nothing was done and nothing needed to be done to Mark. Mark was just purely and simply record it until it's tight.
Is this the real life?
So what we did is we did a bit of de-essing on it, because especially at the front, we needed the vocal to be de-essed. And you can't really de-ess a group because you've got all these vocals that are ever so slightly out of time. If you try to de-ess a group, it's going to grab everything at random times. It's going to be de-essing like one phrase that starts a nanosecond earlier than the other one, and one that starts, it's just not going to work. So we did have to use individual de-essers, but we used the Waves one, you can use the stock one. We didn't get clever on it. It's set to 5.5K where it rips your ears off. And then the second thing we did is we just stuck and this comes free with our DAW, and it's 1176, which would have been available at the time, and a de rigueur kind of compressor. I got plenty of 1176s that are old in 1976, and it's just de-esser into compression. That is it.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality.
So that's how we treated all of Mark's background vocals. Really, really subtly, not a lot going on. Now, as for the lead, got a bit more aggressive on that. De-esser.
Mama just killed a man.
CLA 76.
Mama.
A CLA 76 is just a little bit more aggressive and got a bit more bite than the Bomb Factory one. The Bomb Factory one that comes free with Pro Tools isn't that much like an 1176, but it has the controls of an 1176, so it's familiar to use. There is a Pro Q3 here where really all I'm doing is just bringing some mid-range, some high-end, and doing some low passing. There's a second 1176.
Mama.
So serial compression, basically two 1176s hitting about 2 to 3 dB each. But this is probably the secret. This is what's grabbing it most aggressively, is the RVox. This is what's leveling everything.
Mama.
3 to 6 dB, it'll probably be 6 dB here where it gets super loud.
Didn't mean to make you cry.
No, it's not. It's actually hitting pretty evenly because the 76 here is probably catching the worst of it. Let's have a listen.
Didn't mean to make you cry.
I like that breakup though when it hits it there on 10.
Didn't mean to make you cry.
Hear that in the track.
Didn't mean to make you cry.
On the background vocals, 76, a high mid boost, but then a cut. So it's just a bit more mid-rangey, so it doesn't need as much volume to cut across. And then another 1176. This is probably the most aggressive part of the song, so it's probably the most amount of compression you're going to see.
So you think you can stone me and spit in my eye? So you think you can love me and leave me to die? Oh, baby.
Yeah, I'm sort of coming back to the CLA 76, and what's interesting is that grit is really musical. I hadn't used it in quite a while, and I'm sitting here thinking, how can I get the excitement of the original recording without getting into like fancy modern plugins? And CLA 76 worked great. Now, the thing that you're going to love most is the whole most of the operatic section comes in a pair of stereo files. Have a listen to this.
Scaramouche, Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me.
That's all Mark. And it's all bounced to a stereo file with additional stuff from Steve down here. So that whole operatic section is a dream to mix because he did all of the hard work for us. Thank you. That middle section was great. And when it comes in, the impact is incredible. Anyway, the wind blows, zilch, nothing on it whatsoever.
Where the wind blows. Ooh, 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 ooh. Anyway, the wind blows. Hey everybody, I wanted to take a minute to talk about this microphone. It's the LT386 by Loughton Audio, aka the Eden. And I've just had a couple hours to get acquainted with it, singing Bohemian Rhapsody on it for Produce Like a Pro, and can't wait to hear the final product on that one. I'm not going to bury the lead. This is everything that I look for in a vocal mic. It immediately puts me in mind, not only sonically, but also visually, of a small handful of the greatest microphones I've ever had the pleasure of singing on, like the U47s, the Elam 251s, in people's studios who are lucky enough to own said microphones. I do not, but I am lucky enough to have the LT386 in my studio here in Nashville, and I can tell already it's going to be my workhorse. It's going to get a lot of work from me. It's basically 3 mics wrapped into one. It's got 3 really distinct settings. I don't know how they do it. There's F, N, and G. F standing for forward, which is going to be my go-to for rock and roll. A nice, bright, smooth, crispy top end, while also giving me a nice percussive, chesty frequency, and then a little bit of hair in the upper mid-range, which is always, those are the 3 factors that I look for in a vocal mic. And then there's the N setting, which is more of a neutral LDC sound. And then the G setting is really interesting to me. It's much darker, much warmer, and puts me in mind of a large, like ribbon mic that super suitable for like croonery stuff, which is going to come in really handy when I do Christmas stuff. So I am so excited to work more on this microphone. Thank you, Loughton Audio, for making such a versatile piece of kit. And you can even use this as a kick mic, apparently. It's got one of the high pass settings, gives you a nice round bottom end, but I'm using the high pass that's more suitable for vocals. I think it cuts off at around 50, which gives you plenty of bottom end without being boomy. I'm already in love with this thing. If you're a studio professional and you're really serious about vocals, this one's going to get you there. I can't wait to work more on this one, like I said. And I just want to keep talking because I love hearing myself on this microphone. So thanks, Loughton Audio. Amazing workmanship, just beautiful, and most importantly, amazing sounding. That's the Loughton Audio LT386. Check it out.
Hi, here's a quick look at the drums on Bohemian Rhapsody. And firstly, in terms of the setup I'm playing here, this is more like the kit that Roger Taylor would have used in the later years, a Yamaha Recording Custom. But similar in terms of sizes and tuning. That for the former, these are 12, 13, 14, 16, 18 toms, 24 by 14 inch bass drum, and a 14 by 8 wood snare drum. So relatively large sizes in terms of today's drumming, and also in terms of tuning, the toms are quite high and open, whereas the snare drum is relatively dead. So toms we've got, whereas the snare is tuned fairly low and is dampened down quite a bit. And cymbals are all Zildjian A range, so pretty large crashes, 18, 219s and a 20, new beat hi-hats, and a 21 inch sweet ride. In terms of mics, toms have got beta 98s, got a beta 52 inside the bass drum mounted on a Kelly shoe, SM57 top of the snare, beta 57 underneath the snare, 451s on the hats and ride, AKG 414 TL2s for overheads, and I've actually forgotten the make of my room mics, which are over there somewhere. And then everything goes through my mic preamps, which are all Daking, apart from the overheads are through a Buzz audio, and there's just a touch of limiting on the kick and snare. as I record. Onto the drum track, it's a very dynamic performance. I've played snare center as opposed to a rim shot throughout. That to my ears sounds closer to the original, and the rim shot tended to thin out the snare drum sound. So that initial time feel and we can really appreciate that big tom sound on that operatic breakdown section where the toms are played as double stops, so two toms played simultaneously. And one final element worth pointing out is when we've got the transition into the swing or shuffle feel, the drums play a 3/2 polyrhythm with the 3 on the bass drum and the 2 on the hi-hats. So 3, 4.
So a little bit of a listen to Pete. Big and fat. It's in the drum tuning, quite frankly. It is in the drum tuning. If you listen to the kick, for instance, I'm listening to all that air there. It's fantastic. Look at the EQ on the kick. Oh, wait, there isn't any. So that's the way Pete printed it. What I did do is I took all of the kick elements on this kick out here, for instance. I did a bit of EQ. I rolled off the super lows because it was so subby. Have a listen to this. So much weight. But I took both of those kick elements and I sent it to a kick and tom bus. I wanted to preserve the low end. And so I've got a kick tom bus, and the only thing that's going on is this, some 350 cut, a little bit of 50 hertz boost, and a little bit of attack at 3.5K. Got rid of low lows, subby low lows that I don't need, and I got rid of some high, and that is it. So almost no EQ. We're sort of moving between these two worlds. I want something that sounds authentic to this masterpiece of an original recording. I want the authenticity of it, but it also got to sound modern enough. This was originally recorded on tape. The original song was obviously done on tape. So subtle things that are done are not very much, is to basically take off any excessive amounts of high end that I wouldn't need. My drum bus, for instance, has an SSL bus compressor on it. Pro Q3, just a kind of like a high end boost there for some air. But here really is probably the secret. And you're going to see used a lot on this as I use some tape emulation. Now this is an A800, so this would have been, 1980-ish. They would have not been using this. To the best of my recollection, quickly, they probably had an Ampex or something of that period, because this was recorded, all the basics were done at Rockfield Studios in 1975, because of course this was a Christmas hit in 1975, and massive, 9 weeks at #1. And so this is not that period of tape machine, but it definitely gives me what I want. So if I put all the drums through it, for instance, I could have gone to 30 IPS, that would have been more hi-fi. I could have gone to 7.5 and that would have been not lo-fi, but definitely more of the bump on the low end and smoothed off. But I went to 15 IPS, which I think is pretty accurate for what I wanted. So that, and then a little bit of an L2. So it's quite aggressive on the snare there. I wanted the snare to be limited, to just kind of like squash in a little bit. But ultimately, we're competing in a world where everything was put onto tape and bounced and EQ'd backwards and forwards. and getting a little bit of an aggression out of it. But the thing about this recording, of course, is it's 1975. It wasn't a high-pitched, doing snare, and it wasn't like massive 80s reverb. I put a bit of verb on the drums, probably a little bit more than they might have used in the original. And all I did was use a little plate, simple as that. The other reverb you're hearing is the room. So here's Pete's room without any effects on it. I put a lo-fi plugin on it. Now, why I put a lo-fi plugin on it, and I'll bypass it so you can hear it, is the saturation control over here, which is only set to 0.4, distorts the high end first. So where it gets a little cymbally in the room mics, this is a great tip if you want to tame your room mics, I use the saturation. Have a listen. See those cymbals, for instance, with and without the saturation. Here's without. It's pretty tasty, isn't it? It's subtle, but it's definitely there. And I didn't do any parallel drum compression. I just let the drums breathe. I'm thinking to myself, when this was mixed, this wasn't in a world of where you would have, they have 24 channels coming up, for instance, but there wasn't like a compressor, multiple EQs, and everything going on every channel. I needed to keep as much authenticity while still maintaining some modernness. And the next thing I did, of course, was I wanted the room to be just a little bit bigger, so I put a reverb across it. Again, stock reverb. My favorite setting is 3/4 of a second. That's because my old room at Swing House had a 3/4 of a second reverb tail. I like how it tames that mid-range squawky that's kind of a little bit ugly and too much. So it's on 48%, so it's about half effect, half dry signal. So here's the snare. So I do have a gate on it. I have a gate on the snare. It's quite possible it would have been gated. I've got rooms, I've got other stuff going on, so that's the only thing I'm gating. I have got a Pro Q3 on it, which has got, could have used anything, 150 wide Q and a 15K starting, lifting from what, 2K up? So just a good old smiley face on the snare drum. I mean, obviously, little plate, that's what you're hearing. So if we go to a tom section, of which, of course, there are many when it comes to the great Roger Taylor. Now, I didn't go super, super wide. It's sort of in this area here. I mean, I literally only went like 30% to 30%. So in a grand scheme of things, if this is the potential width, we're sort of about here. I wanted this to feel like a real drum kit in a room. We had the privilege of recording drums at Rockfield last year and having the privilege of talking to Kingsley about what it was like to have Queen in there. And of course, if you've seen the Queen documentary of Bohemian Rhapsody, they go back to that room and they're like, oh, I remember it. And we put the drums in the same place. And yeah, it's an amazing experience. If you ever get to record at Rockfield, if you have the opportunity, take it. So as far as the actual EQ on the toms, some high passing, and then a bit of lift, and they're all gated lightly, high passing, bit of a lift. I didn't need to add any low end on this because Pete already tuned the drums really well. Gating, bit of lift. And then on this floor here, I did do some low mid cut and a bit of boost. And that was it. Just on that one floor tom, that was the only kind of EQ that was dramatic. So pretty much the sound of the drums. So anything you like about the sound of the drums is not me. A little bit of plate, tiny bit high passing, couple of bits of boost, gate on the snare, nothing on the hi-hat whatsoever, nothing on the overheads whatsoever, not even high passing, and that is it. And the ride, nothing. So this is the way the great Pete Riley recorded. My guess is that you're all going to want his number and you'll be asking him to record for you, because phenomenal playing and just really well-tuned drums.
Hello everybody, Tony Franklin here. I, like many of us in the UK in late 1975, was captivated by Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. It was a landmark for me personally. I was 13 years old. I was playing bass. I played with my parents' band. I was also involved in orchestras, in big band, in musical theatre. And Queen brought together all the elements that I love in a hard rock package. I didn't even know it could be done. And listening on my little transistor radio, I could hear the bass so clearly. It's like, wow, I had never heard a bass so deep and powerful. And when I saw the iconic video, there's the prelude of the song, as I call it, with all the vocals and the piano bit. And then when it hits the do-do-do-do-do-do on the piano, I saw the video, and there was John Deacon right by Freddie's side and front and center as his Fender Precision bass. To me, it was like this huge, massive, deep bell. It hit. Do-do-do-do, boom. It's like, okay, I'm getting a precision bass. I was playing a Hagstrom Futurama before then. And my dad had already clued me into the importance of a precision bass. And he found one in the local Derby paper in England. And we went over there, bought it on the spot. It was a 1975. It was barely used. So my course was set from there. I've been a Fender P bass player for many, many years. I still have that bass. Anyway, going back to John Deacon's part, he sets the anchor and the root and the foundation of the whole song. Right there, it sets it, boom, announcing, here we go. And there's no real surprises in the bass part for me, because he's holding it down as he should do, with all the activity, all the guitar layers, all the vocal harmonies, all the intricacies of the piano. He did exactly what needed to be done. He just held it down. He anchored it. So very, very important. And he did it so well. And there are some tricky parts in there as well. Pretty challenging there. So in the midst of a rock song, it's very proggy. And so he executed it perfectly and throughout. And he was never afraid to use the whole of the fingerboard. The very end, towards the very end, nothing really matters to me. He goes up to the top fret. It's quiet. It's hard to hear it in there. But he did it. It's like, okay, perfect. It was an E flat, the last chord right there. And so he nailed it so perfectly, so beautifully. I love John Deacon's playing because it's very foundational, yet he's very experimental too. So I did the P bass, and if you listen closely, there's some overdrive, there's some saturation there. He's rocking, especially on those instrumental sections. It's digging in, and John Deacon, the foundation, the rock, the anchor, that kind of sums him up, doesn't it? Thanks, John Deacon. You changed my life.
Tony did do a blend for us. He recorded a blend where he took the DI and the amp and blended them together. I chose not to use that. I wanted to do my usual, so the DI here. So we go to a busier part. John Deacon is in my top 5 greatest bass players of all time. Super melodic, wrote some of the best songs ever. Incredibly talented, and as you know, very humble, very quiet guy. What's not to love about him? His tone was very middly, very mid-rangey, Had some low lows, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely kind of a finger style, although we did play with pick as well at times. But it just kind of had that kind of like very tight finger style sound, which I love. As you can see here, quite a lot of compression going on here. I didn't do any multi-band. So unbelievably squashed deliberately and just brings out distortion. And then tons of like 3K is the area where I hear the fingers or the pick. So probably more work to the bass than any other instrument. When you get a chance to mix it, do whatever you like. The subgroup is very typical for me, rolling off low lows out the way of the kick. The R bass in here, quite a decent amount of low set to 80 hertz, and then an REQ, basically controlling what's going on, just taming it. And then of course, probably the secret weapon, quite frankly, that's giving this and keeping the integrity is using the Studer A800 again. No bass mix for me is complete without an R bass or an MV2. I recently had a comment under a video when I was talking about 3 favorite plugins, and we made a short out of it and talked about only 2, not the third one. The third one was OX Sound Soothe 2 for those of you. Somebody says, oh, Waves commercial. No, we were talking about lots of different ones. But my 3 can't live without plugins are the R bass, the MV2, and the Soothe 2, the OX Sound Soothe 2. In this instance, having an R bass and an MV2, even just those 2 with a bit of REQ or any other high passing you want to use, it's probably all I need to get a great bass tone. That to me gives me that John Deacon. And they were quite aggressive with compression in those days on bass. I mean, you see some of the waveforms, you hear them, but if you ever see them printed back into digital, there's just blobs of absolute perfection, of just like tone. And that's what we were going for. We're going for that amazing John Deacon bass sound. So let's hear bass and drums together. So for me, not doing much work on the kick, not doing much work on the drums and letting them all breathe was very deliberate, not just because it was this, you know, kind of like, oh, I want to be loads of integrity. No, it's because I actually wanted to keep that John Bonham / Roger Taylor, oof, the Roger air. It was very, obviously Bonham was before Roger, became famous before Roger. Roger became famous a few years later. But the point is like they both shared that oosh. Listen to the air on the kick. Sometimes when you get in there and every single kick element, and I've done it and we've all done it, and just scooped out all the 350 and all the low mids out of 2 or 3 areas of the kick drum, it just ends up being the boom that you want and the click that you want. But that mid-range kind of like oosh, which might get in the way sometimes, gets lost. I didn't want to lose it in this instance. All right, well, we know what's coming next. It would be Steve Majora on the Joanna on piano.
So this is the mic setup. I've got the LA 320s here on the piano. These are beautiful, beautiful mics. And we've got them positioned, one over the midsection and one over the bass strings on the piano. They're being run into the power supply and then over to my snake over here, which is behind the couch. Then we also have the LA 220s. The LA 220 here, it's set up as a room mic, about 12 feet away from the piano, in front of the curtains by the window. So pulled the curtains closed just to get a little bit of, just to dampen those reflections a little bit. Got Logic set up through AirPlay on my screen, a couple lights, and then this is the fun part. Let's follow this cable, see where the other LA 220 is. And I actually set this up here in my shower. And so we've got the shower mic, and it's proving to be a really cool, cool reverb. So I've got everything wired under the house. Here's my studio desk. It's a bit of a mess right now, but we've got it going into the Evo 16s, and we got it patched to channel 3, 4, 5, and 6. 3 is the piano left, 4 is piano right, 5 is the room, and 6 is the bathroom, the shower mic. Really cool auto gain function on the Evo 16s. And then, yeah, we got that up there going.
There's several pianos here. You're going to get them all. You're going to get to mess with them. I created a blend of lots of different takes and for different sections. Steve printed lots of different piano sounds. Not really anything going on with them. We did try. We got a bit carried away with some EQ and compression and ended up just using this. This is it. It's the Abbey Road TG 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you can see, there's a bit of boost on the treble here. Like it looks like probably about 2 or 3 dB. There's less than that, about 1 dB at 1.2K, and the low end is left like it is. There's a bit of compression, but the input's set really, really low. So let's hear the piano with the bass and drums. So in our world of a digital recording, trying to make it a little bit more organic and a little bit more analog sound, we've got, of course, the waves we were just talking about. We are going into an REQ. Again, you could use something stock. You guessed it, just a tiny bit of high passing. But again, it's kind of been the secret weapon on this one, is the Studer, the A800. It's subtle. I mean, I'll let you hear it. I got the 456 tape, by the way. I grew up using 456 and 457. For me, it's like just slightly rounds off the transients. Just seems to just kind of give it a little bit of kick up the butt on the low end, just a tiny bit. I'm sure there's plenty of very, very clever people out there. I'm talking about you, Paul Third, who can sit there and analyze this and say it's just an EQ curve. And you may well be right. It may be an EQ curve with a tiny bit of saturation and compression going on. It's probably something you could emulate with 3 different plugins, or you could just use this, at least the interface. I'm perfectly fine with whatever you choose to do, but this is the way we went. And then EQ at the end afterwards, I went a little bit more high-end tastic on it just to make it be a little bit brighter in the mix. You can see it's grabbing some of the mids there and everything. It's just helping it a little bit. However you choose to mix it is how you choose to mix it. And then for reverb, probably guess what I'm going to do. A little bit of low end cut, so we didn't get a build up of low end in the reverb. And then, of course, yeah, the Abbey Road. The Abbey Road plates are some of my favorites. I use the little plate. I will use Avid's free one all the time. Use your DAW stock reverb, whatever you feel works for you. But I do like the Abbey Road stuff. There's some nostalgia to it. We're doing a classic song. I don't mind the romance and the nostalgia. I mean, you know, we're paying for this GUI here, and that's part of it. I get it. I understand. And that's okay. If that's what you like, and it's kind of fun for me. I don't mind the romance of it. We talk about this all the time, working with young bands. We can track anywhere in the world. We could track in our own studio. But sometimes when the budget allows, we go to Sunset Sound for a few days and track drums in there. Why do we do that? Because, you guessed it, people walk in and they see all these incredible records that they love. Rockfield's another one of those situations when we were tracking there. You go in there and you fall in love with this room, and it inspires you. It is a big part of why we do music. If you didn't love it and you weren't inspired, why are you doing music, you know? Anyway, you get the idea. There's a piano there, another one. There is a whole bunch down the bottom as well. You can have some fun with it. So all that really remains is, of course, Jamie Humphries, incredible guitar player.
Hi everyone, Jamie Humphries here, and Warren has asked me to jump in and talk a little bit about some of the key guitar moments from Bohemian Rhapsody. Now, Bohemian Rhapsody boasts some of the greatest guitar playing in rock history. First of all, we have that solo. It's an iconic solo. It's melodic, but it has exciting runs, that little descending flurry. It has that majestic phrasing to it, and it has that tone. We have the riffs. The riff that follows the operatic section really is a blueprint to hard rock and heavy metal. It is one of the greatest riffs in rock history. But as well as that, Bohemian Rhapsody really demonstrates Brian's vision when it comes to creating and crafting guitar parts. He has everything mapped out. He knows where each lick, each run, each riff is going to go, how he places those parts within a mix, and also what sound he is going to use. He knows exactly the tone that he wants to really make the part work. He really is a master of both guitar parts and tone. I have played this song probably close to 1,000 times, being the principal in We Will Rock You across many countries in Europe. I was a substitute for many years on We Will Rock You in London. And also, I played with Brian. So I have played Bohemian Rhapsody along with Brian. I've played accompanying and supporting parts to him. So I've had a certain amount of insight to the way that he plays it. Now, something else that people are very passionate about is Brian May's guitar sound. So I probably am opening a can of worms here. I could have gone several different routes. I could have gone the IK multimedia route. I was very much involved with the Amplitude Brian May. I really worked with Brian a lot on talking to him about how he created certain sounds and what pickup configurations he was using when I came up with the presets for that package. I also have some wonderful captures for Tone X. I have treble boosters, Strat boosters, Brian May boosters. I have different amps and different preamps that would enable me to get a ballpark tone. But instead of that, I am using a Digitech Brian May signature pedal. This pedal is a very old pedal, and these pedals are very collectible, and for good reason. They sound great. Brian himself actually has the guts of one of these in a rack unit in his live rig. He's actually retired his replica Deaky and uses the Deaky sound from the Digitech pedal. Now, this pedal was actually bought for me, a very generous member of the Produce Like a Pro community who also follows me on Six String Alliance, and he reached out to me and he wanted to give me this pedal, which I was absolutely blown away by. So this gave me a great excuse to use the pedal. One of the cool things about the pedal is that it has a lot of presets based on the songs. And even though it's old tech, the sounds are great. And when you're in the Bohemian Rhapsody sound, when you have it in the toe position, that's your rhythm tone. In the hill position, that's the lead tone. And as you push the expression pedal down, it morphs from the AC30 sound to the Deaky sound. Now, I'm obviously using a Brian May Red Special guitar. This is my green Special, although it looks black on camera. This is pretty much stock, apart from a few improvement modifications. I've got the hand-wound Trisonics in my guitar. These are the Addison Trisonics, which were hand-wound by Adrian Turner. And I have vintage Burns magnets in these pickups. So the signal chain is literally the Brian May guitar into the Brian May Digitech pedal, and I'm also using a sixpence piece. Brian used his Red Special guitar with the treble booster into an AC30. And the tones were a mixture of the combinations of the pickup switching, the phase switching as well, kicking certain pickups in and out of phase. Brian really had like a whole vision of how the guitar parts should be pieced together. And as well as that, he used the Deaky amp, was this little, it was a speaker amplifier from a doctor's announcement PA, the little speakers that you'd have in the doctor's waiting room that John Deacon found in an old skip, which to the American people, that would be like for the trash, and built this amplifier. And Brian said himself, it sounded pretty much like nothing until he plugged in the guitar with the treble booster, and it really came to life. And we hear the Deaky amplifier being used as well in this track. So again, it just goes to show how Brian just knows the perfect tone for the parts, which resulted in this iconic recording.
I think the solo is phenomenal. Let's put in all the guitars in this section. see, we did some serious rides there. Pushed those up, brought everything else down. I mean, it's old school, you know, band on the faders, pushing things up where they needed to be. I learned that with quite dramatically, and that's a massive move, isn't it? And back down again. Working with Steven Tyler, honestly, he would make me do things that sounded to me absolutely insane. And then I go back and listen to the record that we made with Aerosmith, and all of those bass runs that Tom was doing, they had me push up, just sound perfectly natural that they're featured. So sometimes, you know, automation really is king and is key. And so it works in that solo. Now, I think one of my favorite moments of this whole song, and Jamie's guitar playing is a big part of it, is this section.
Just gotta get right out of here.
Can we just talk about the absolutely masterful production that Queen had? The songwriting, the craft, the arrangement. It's what a wild journey. You've got these beautiful, is this real life vocals at the beginning? And you've got, you know, like a verse and a chorus, then a massive operatic section. And, you know, before that, of course, you've got this incredible lead guitar part that's just like, oh my God, what is this? You've got this amazing rock guitar solo. We could just finish on this and we'd be so happy. But yes, operatic section comes next. And then the heavy, heavy part, you know, the Wayne's World moment. With the screaming Freddie vocals that come in after that. All of this is more than enough for absolute total world domination and brilliance. But then, of course, at the end, those harmonies, that it's just a sense of relief and release. Brings you to tears. Absolutely incredible. So I hope you enjoyed that. This was so much fun to do. Thank you ever so much, Mark Martel. Thank you for singing this. We did some incredible capturing of some incredible performances, but of one of the greatest, if not the greatest song of all time, with one of the most incredible pieces of production, which we tried our best to pay homage to. Thank you, Roy Thomas Baker. And of course, the incredible, masterful engineering of Mike Stone. Band, performances, song, arrangement, production, engineering, and mix. My humble opinion, the finest of all of those things. The greatest song ever recorded. I hope you enjoy our cover, and I hope that we paid enough homage to Queen and their brilliance. Thanks ever so much for watching, everybody. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios, goodbye.